Hey, Santal, Dave Brown. I'm here with my wife Judy, and we're with producer Rob. Rob, how you doing today?
Doing great, man, Dave. There's so much going on in the world, number one, and wow, just from the last week's show to this week's show, incredible news. Our Department of Education, the leakers at Christy Noem's going after Elon Musk and Tesla stock and the economy. So much going on. But how you guys been doing? You guys been on a little bit of a worldwide trip, I should say, a nationwide trip. Tell us where you're at.
Yeah, we're in our it's our third one in 2.5 years, and we're in Morano, Arizona right now with family, and it's been cooler than we expected, but we saw the big tennis tournament in Wells for a whole week, and then we were in Mesa with other family for a whole week. It's been a bit windy. We saw a lot of crazy windstorms and rain kind of came in down here, unusual, but it's nice. Most of the days have been sunny and not rainy, and so we're having a blast though. We'll be home soon, and yeah, we'll be back in the studio with you.
Sounds good. Judy, everybody wants to know, has Dave been behaving?
Oh my, that's a really good question. Okay, 90% of the time, 90% of the time. But he's been a good husband and a great, I want to say, brother, and then adopted, I don't know, uncle to some kids around here in Arizona. So it's super fun.
Well, that's great. The thing about Dave is he's never met a stranger, as you know. Never met a stranger. Everybody, he's great with that. But I'll tell you what, he's got such a good, or it's just a strong belief in family values, and that's obviously what we talk a lot about on the show. So, but something happened here in my own personal sort of sphere that I wanted to kind of talk about, and it's great that Judy's on the show because I think it's something that affects her as well, or she's seen as well. So, back home in Missouri, in St. Louis, at a very prestigious high school, Christian Brothers College High School, legendary soccer coach, 52 years served. Was not only went to the school, he served, but he he actually went to the high school. He was like a high school star in the 60s. He was like recruited by big time colleges, and he was part of the old NASL soccer league when they started. So really legendary guy. His name's Terry Mickler. By just full transparency, I am related to him, but it's like I said, he is at the very top of our cousin list, and I'm at the very bottom. So it's not like we have a lot of interaction. But he was let go, and a lot of people were kind of up in arms. They kind of felt like, wait a minute, this guy's really earned his place, to kind of dictate what he wanted to do. He built this program. It's a national program. The type of program where they won 7, 8, 9 state championships. We're always in district championships. We're just successful program. What do you guys think? I mean, the school's a private school. It's not a public school, but apparently this is kind of a trend with some of these old legendary coaches just being kind of shown the door. And I know you guys maybe have seen that in your careers.
I've seen it. If you don't have the technology, or you're not in this or that kind of realm, then they're going to let you go. You have too many wrinkles, they're going to let you go, which is too bad, because I think wisdom comes from coaching a long time or teaching. That's what I feel like. We're letting people go when they have so much still to give to these kids.
I think, Rob, too, though, it's like sports is it's a rough game. I mean, Candace Owens said last year, politics, life's rough, get a helmet. And, that's sports in general. We talk all the time about, teaching our kids to work hard, be competitive. And, that's kind of the name of the game in athletics. So not knowing all the things that surrounded Terry, it sounded like he had a fantastic career. I've been in
I mean, David, let me just tell you that the guy, he was in 1,600 games.
Yeah.
He's actually was considered the winningest soccer coach in America among high school coaches by the National Federation of High School Coaches. So, it's all legit. I mean, statistics are very legit, but do the schools owe people like that anything?
Yeah, I think they do. I think when, high school sports should be different than the college game and the pro game. The money's not there. The parents are there. That's what's unfortunate. If you get the wrong group of parents at the right time, it's like a storm that hits, and they can make life very difficult for the athletic director and the principal, and it's going to come down at the coach, and it could have been a playing time personality conflict. You would really hope that high school sports would be way past letting a coach like this showing the door when he's put in that much time. I've been similar to that, and it's brutal. It tears you up. I mean, you put your heart and soul into some place, and they don't treat you very well. And then on the opposite end, I've been treated really well, maybe when I hadn't contributed that much. So, for this guy, I'd like to know more of the circumstances. You just got to really hope it didn't come down to parents and, maybe an off season of winning and losing.
I hope so,
Well,
because sometimes parents can be the influence, especially at a private school, because they're the ones paying tuition. So they feel like they have more of money in the game. So, and they want their kid to be successful, and they want a different coach. Sometimes that happens.
well, so let me tell you a little bit more about this guy, because again, I know him well, and he's been, he was actually one of my teachers or one of my mentors. So if I say the word image, the image he projected wasn't the best. He didn't fit the political image of the school, and that sort of thing. In private schools, you really see that a lot, right, Judy and David? I know you guys see that a lot.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right, and I know the skew of athleticism or athletes, it's all changing. And so if you believe a little bit differently, or if you ever, step up and say, hey, I think only girls should be on this team and only boys should be on that team, and we separate that, especially at the high school level, if you say any of that, even behind closed doors, and it gets out, then it can totally be taken off on social media by other people. I don't know the circumstance, but a lot of times it happens, and then they lose their positions because of something that may have been said, but really, it's kind of like, the games that we play with words.
Rob, what was the thing you say he was projecting wrong?
Well, so again, it's kind of a very complex situation, because again, in the 1960s, this was a guy who was maybe one of the top athletes in America. He's one of those guys. He was a football star. The team was a juggernaut. They went 3 years without losing a game, that sort of thing. Really, really high end school. Again, this isn't a private all boys school. Okay, there's not a boys and girls. It's just only boys. Okay, so but over the years, he kind of let himself go. I mean, he ended up gaining a lot of weight to the point where he ended up getting or he developed diabetes either through his genes or whatever, had diabetes, and to the point where he ended up having to have his leg amputated. So he was a soccer coach who couldn't really get out on the field and demonstrate drills. He could just kind of, but he's considered to be one of the most brilliant minds in high school soccer, in America, and even internationally. He's been connected to people in Holland and Germany and, Japan, and just all over the world. So, just in terms of the sport, he's so highly respected, but he didn't really fit the political image maybe that the school wanted his coaching to project. Again, like I said, he's in a motorized scooter. He's 72 years old.
I think
I mean,
my first thought on the whole thing would have been, I'd like to go back and talk to the principal athletic director or something like that and say, this just doesn't happen overnight. And you would like to think that with that long of a relationship, they would have saw some of this coming years before. And I think instead of showing him the door, that's a pretty brutal way for anybody, unless he was doing, wrong stuff. You would like to maybe find him a different role, like, you could even come up with a title,
Stats or operational manager.
So I think that they could have, you would have hoped whoever was in charge could have pulled something like that off maybe 5 years
guys
sooner.
there?
Yeah. So
Rob, how you doing over there? You still okay?
He's gone, but we're still here.
I think we're still here.
Yeah, we can talk about sports. What have we been seeing?
Let me text Rob.
Oh, there he is.
There you go. Sorry, I got a phone call in the middle of this and it just shut my whole thing down, which is crazy. So, Judy, I'm on my phone today because my computer is kind of acting up a little bit. So we'll still continue. But anyway, we kind of got cut off where you're talking about. You just started talking about your answer about his situation.
Yeah, I think Rob. I think for me, people are always more important than stuff. At the same time, we as coaches, you're always there to serve the kids. And so if that wasn't being done in just, maybe the right way in 2024 is different than it was in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. So, all of us have to move along, and grow with the game. We have to go get training and we have to, stay updated. Kids today talk differently than they did, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So in fairness to the school, things have changed a lot and you have to adapt big time. But at the same time, that human element, I think we see it in society right now where, we're not so good right now at how we're treating other human beings. And on this trip, for an example, Judy and I got away to California and Arizona. We've encountered so many great people. I can't even tell you. Only a couple of times have we encountered people that were somewhat rude. And it's been really refreshing, to just conversations with people from, Canada and Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan. And it's been awesome.
Well, it just goes back, Dave, I think when you meet somebody or how to have that people relationship, I think we have to take some time. I think that goes back to coaching too. It's how you interact with your players. It's how you interact with your administration and parents. And it's a big time job. I think back in the day, it used to just be how you play or how you coach. Now there's so many factors to it. Know how to be in technology, know how to use different things. I mean, people have different expectations. And I think even for this coach, I'm sorry for him because I know the heartache of this, of being taken away from something you're passionate about or you love. But over time, hopefully it won't be such a dramatic thing and he can go do and make an impact someplace else or with other people.
Rob, I think what I'd add to that too is like, I've been in his situation where something, you finally get to that head coaching spot and it's just ripped away from you and it's not done well. Judy's had the same thing happen in education. And I would say, like what Paige and I, producer Paige and I will say, well, I'm going to get Bibling on you right now. And I think, we're all on Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 with Jesus. And that means trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, Jesus, and he'll make your path straight. Well, it's his path for us. And this is the path for this particular coach, Terry. And as hard as it is, there's a reason there's a new coach in there for these kids today. And is it better or worse? Don't know. Did they handle it the right way? It doesn't sound like it. They could have probably done better. But they could have been in a no-win situation. But I think we all have to look at I just remember after leaving 20 years of Newburgh to go to the school board and being the head tennis coach and 20 years, Rob, year round building that program up to a really winning program. And I had to decide between the political office I had been elected to or stay with coaching. And I chose that. People elected me into an office. I had to go. So my point is the Lord's got a plan for all of us. Like right now, producer, you, Rob and Paige and Judy and I and Rose, we're all part of Stand Tall right now. We didn't even know Stand Tall was going to exist a couple of years ago. And so life changes. I think it'll change for Terry. He's got a lot to offer. Sounds like a wealth of knowledge. But I would highly recommend, Rob, that you and everybody else that's been touched by this man, find a way to reach out to him,
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
and that's what I appreciated the most was people just saying, hey, how you doing?
Sure.
Or send a note or email these days or text or whatever they have. Just say thank you. I think that makes a huge world of difference.
Yeah, that's what I would.
I think, as an alumni of the school and as someone who, has a close association with that school, yeah, I'm disappointed. But also I have to, say in its defense, Dave, you're right. This isn't the first time this conversation has probably come up with this coach. And, apparently this is something that had been going on for many, many years. Because again, I hadn't really been associated with the school in about 8 years, but, I know those conversations were kind of going on back when I was, still working there. So again, I understand. And again, no, I don't want to throw any shade on the new coach. The new coach is a fine young man. He's an alumni of the school. He was actually a really top soccer player in his own right. His name's Randy Roy. My hat's off to him. I think he's going to do a spectacular job. But again, I just, you really feel for people who give their entire lives, literally their entire adult lives, to one particular school, a program, a cause, and when they're kind of shown the door in a way that's not maybe respectful, it burns a lot of people, not just him. You know what I mean?
I get that, because as an educator, I was kind of pushed aside in education. And so I received, at the end of my career, hopefully he had a really good goodbye, but I had 2 sentences from my vice principal and a and a letter from the district office. And so those kinds of things, after all the longevity of many years of being you put your heart and soul into education or coaching, which I did, and get only a few accolades back, you would think you'd have something, but hopefully he did, and he had a really good goodbye, and hopefully people continue to support him as he continues to do his life,
I
So
think too,
Sure.
Rob, one thing I try to say all the time too is getting older. We have to be careful as older people. I'm quite a bit older than you, but we talk about
A lot older than me and Judy.
like
I
6 or
thought
7,
Judy looks like your daughter actually over there. Bet you get that a
Oh,
lot.
mwah.
6 or 7 months between me and Rob. I think too, we have to, as older people, have to recognize too that young people have so much to offer, and the older I get, the more I see, like our, kind of our adopted son here and his wife. They're incredible young people. They're late 30s, and they're great parents. They work hard. They're doing everything the right way. It's not easy, with 4 children. But young people have so much to offer, and sometimes we just have to let them have the chance to go. This Randy, you're talking about this kid.
Oh,
I mean,
Randy Roy,
he
yeah,
might be
great
the
player.
thing. He might be the next Terry, and and I think those days of people being there forever. But look at the NFL. Everybody's going to relate to Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots. I mean, legendary career before he got there. Then he gets to New England, and him and Tom Brady and Gronkowski and all those guys, they put together one of the greatest runs in NFL history. But you got to know the last couple of years, there was a lot of talks going on about Belichick's got to go. And I think, Brady left, and, the team started to unassemble, and it was time for Belichick to go. And probably a year, maybe he stayed too long. And
Sure.
but it's now they got a new coach. Now they're struggling, the rebuild, so everybody's kind of whining about, New England. Then all of a sudden you got to go through the rebuild. Well, good luck with that rebuild. It takes a long time in the NFL. Sometimes it might not happen for 20 years.
Sure.
So I think, moving on, today I had a question for you. We've got a lot of stuff going on in Oregon right now. It's happening around the country. But, we've got the Department of Education question to ask today. And this is a big, well, by the way, if you ever get a chance to get Terry's address, please send it to Judy and I, and through Stan Tall. We would love to send him a letter.
A note.
But with that said, on the Department of Education, Judy's a 34-year, educator. I was 20. We both coached over 70 years between us, so we've been around public education a lot. There's a big controversy now over the national NEA. Trump's saying, "Hey, you guys are not getting it done. You're not that efficient." So, what do you think?
I've been following that a little bit, and old Randy Weingarten's been rattling her sword. She goes away and then comes back again every time there's some sort of controversy. I'm not really sure she's an effective leader for that. What does she lead? She leads the teachers organization for whatever the biggest one is, and I think that she again is another one of these people who got in these positions and they just got embedded, and they got embedded over the years and just kept getting promoted and through attrition or whatever. And they just through the way that happens, and you guys well know, is you don't just get promoted that way. There's a lot of political grift and a lot of back scratching and a lot of games that have to get played behind the scenes to be able to get above those mid-level manager positions in those district offices and in those school districts. Oregon's no different. Missouri was no different. All these school districts are so highly politicized, and the Department of Education again has really not been effective. Again, let's call it what it is. I mean, they have not gotten the job done, and at some point, you know, if you're not getting the job done, you're going to be shown the door. And I feel like the teachers are being led by Charlemagne
Yeah, we've seen Randy Baumgartner,
or
in
Weingartner, and I think
in speeches, and I'll tell you what, you want to hit your head against the wall after you listen to her for 10 seconds. She's the problem because
she's like a real militant type of person, or is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Animated, very animated, and this is
Angry.
the we're gonna do it.
Angry.
And if we don't do it this way, then we're kicking you to the door.
The thing about that, we said this over and over on Stand Tall. We're not anti-union.
Mhm.
Last year when we went into Denver, we're part of the Freedom Foundation, and that's to get people out of the teachers unions. There's good unions out there. The teachers union is not one of them. And we were having lunch in Colorado, and this gentleman was sitting a couple of rows down, and Judy and I both happened to be wearing her shirt that said the Janus Project, which was the gentleman who came along. And correct me if I'm wrong here. And he really fought the whole union,
But not the
thing.
teachers union. It was a different union
Yeah.
down in California. Yeah.
So he came up and he saw our shirts, and he was wearing a union, t-shirt. He was like a pipe fitter guy, and he kind of at first was kind of questioning our shirts, and then we just talked to him, and he was a great guy, and then he understood. I said, hey, we're not. Your union's probably great in the pipe fitters. It's a teachers union that's really. So they have they have about $230 million a year comes into the teachers unions. But you know what? They have almost $300 million a year comes in off their investments into all of their stock markets and stuff comes in. So it's almost $500 million to the teachers unions. I know for me, dude, in 20 years, nobody ever called me. Nobody ever gave me anything. I didn't even get a pencil in 20 years. What do you get?
Well, I got a few things, but I went into the union as a young person to help make education better, help me be a better teacher. And that's the bottom line. That's what I thought the union was going to do. This is not necessarily a bashing of the unions right now. The Department of Education was brought about. It was in agriculture before that. And then Carter, when he was elected, he went to the teachers union and said, hey, 1979, if you guys get all those people to vote for me, then I will change it. And so they changed it in 1979 to be the Department of Education and have their own little niche. And now that niche has grown to so much that it really doesn't help the kids in the classroom, or it doesn't help the teacher in the classroom. And it's supported by the unions, which really is supported by the teachers, because the teachers union is like an ATM. They just take the money out of your check. They use it how they want. The unions do. And then they have all these political agendas that are at the very top.
How do they use it? I mean, give me, I'm not really familiar with how that works. Give me an example of 2 or 3 things that they would use money for.
One, Rob,
that you know.
They take over, it's either 70 or 80% of the teachers union dues that come in. And like in Oregon, for example, they would export money out of Oregon into national Democratic races, Planned Parenthood, anything that they supported without giving thought to somebody like us who's, no, we don't believe in Planned Parenthood, or we're Republican.
Or agendas. They give money to different organizations.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, they give money to Black Lives Matter, or the Gleason, which is all about the LGBTQ plus movement. They give those kinds of dollars because they believe in that, and books, different organizations that have that are writing books and curriculum. Curriculum right now is huge because it's coming into our universities and then dwindling down or sprinkling for right now, sprinkling only into our public schools. Is that it's the curriculum that has some of the ideas skewed, our history skewed, the thinking of people has been skewed. So that's a lot of the dollars that specifically are being sent from me as a teacher, if I were still in the union, down to the, that's how it'd be used.
Well,
It's really
you talk about the agenda. One of the agendas has been, in my opinion, kind of this assault on Christianity, and that how it's not okay to show your faith in schools, and and coaches getting fired for praying before games, and making it optional. It's like, I think people see that thing and they're like, wait a minute, like, this is crazy.
Well, Rob, it's been going on for quite a long time. This just didn't start during COVID. COVID helped put a spotlight on a lot of it, but this attack on our public schools has been going on a long time. It's been in our universities for decades, and what we've allowed is it's what I heard 6 years ago at the Billy Graham crusades when Franklin Graham came out and said, 45, 50 years ago then, so that the local conservatives and evangelicals, walked away from local politics, city councils, school boards, county commissioners, things like that. And I think what we allowed to happen in our country, and it's all of our faults, is we've not got that balance. We need to have a balance between Democrats and Republicans. We've talked about this all the time. I'm probably a bit more conservative than you are, and we need to come together with a lot of our ideas. And sometimes the Republican ideas are probably better, and sometimes it's the Democrats. But we've gotten way away from that. Now we're at the extremes of both ends, and so it's really difficult. We just know in public education that when people have agendas and they are just say focus on Black Lives Matter, for example, bad things are going to happen because it was never about the kids. And we've always in our coaching and our work in education, it should be all about the kids and the parents, and it's not. It's gotten twisted.
Well, I just back to the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. It's hard when you have your colleagues or people losing their jobs. There'll be people at the university levels we know that are losing their jobs because DEI is going away, or they're rebranding DEI with different names. But I just really believe that the bottom line is, I think the Trump administration is really trying to get the dollars back into the teachers' hands, us, because we're the experts to help shine the light and teach these kids, because our kids are so far behind. They're not reading at grade level. That's huge. They're not doing math problems. I mean, when you have 23%, that means 75%. It's not just 23%. Yay. No, we should be saying we should have 90% and then have special programs for the 10%. But we don't have that in public schools. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to high expectations, not just giving away grades. There's those things that goes back to the classroom.
Yeah, you talk about in the classroom, it seems like there's been less focus on, algebra, arithmetic, and civics, and more, more focus on, the right to demonstration and the right to protest, and here's how you should stand up for yourself, and to create this narrative where you're being run over by the system, and the only way to do it is to stand up and to fight and break windows and to go downtown and fight a bunch of police officers. It's how did we get here? And then you say, well, the NEA is very much involved with those sort of movements and getting people and getting organizers down there and getting people to spread the word and be able to kind of create this, this sense of lawlessness because they're so widespread, and it's kind of being done on the down low.
I think those things are not being shown. I think parents are super busy and they don't know what has been taught in the classroom. We assume that school's like it was when we went to school, right? But the last 10 years, parents are opening their eyes and seeing a little bit. And 90% of our students are going to go to a public school and they're going to see these things and they're going to come home and they're going to glean a little bit about what's being taught. No matter how much you teach at home, you're going to gather a little bit just by conversations in the hallways with other kids or on the playground.
A lot, but, more than that.
Yeah, a lot. But I just think that it goes back to regulating. And sorry, regulations, I don't necessarily always like regulations, but we need to regulate what is going on in our classrooms.
Well, I'll tell you this, for example. What would happen right now, Jude? I'm asking you. You've been in the classroom. I think, Rob, one of the things we almost have to do, it sounds extreme, is, the parents are the ones that ultimately are responsible for their kids, even though a lot of people are trying to take away parent rights. They want to be able to talk to their kids about all kinds of crazy stuff without the parents' consent. But what would happen if the parents were allowed to, in our school district at home or right here in Arizona, to be in the classroom for an hour, you know? And I'm talking about every classroom. And if parents could sit in the back row and just observe what's going on, I'll tell you what, the teachers unions would blow up gasket because they don't want people to see what's really going on. Now you have great teachers that are like, bring it, no problem. But by the time kids get out of grade school, the public schools don't want the parents around. You know, they want their fundraising money and things like that. Come to the games. But what would happen if we could have parents in all the classrooms tomorrow? Well, tomorrow's Sunday, but let's say Monday. Let's just say all parents are in classrooms across the country. But things would change very quickly because parents would be going like, "Are you kidding me?" And they would be pulling their hair out real fast, and then we'd have a national crisis. Boys being in locker rooms is far bigger to me than the boys playing in the girls' sports because that's limited to certain sports and certain things. But everybody's dealing with boys and girls locker rooms. That's insane. And if we had parents there watching this and then reporting on it, I bet within a week we'd be in a massive crisis in this country as far as something's got to be done. But right now we're lukewarm about it.
What do you think, Judy?
Well, my hands are grasped like this because I just see that there's so many factors to this that we do need to have parents super involved. But parents are busy too, and so they give us educators we should be the ones that know how to teach, what to teach, those kinds of things. They need to give some of that, again, the regulation back to the teachers, but not all teachers are in for that game, right? To teach the kids. They have a different agenda, and they've been programmed to have a different agenda. And that comes back from our higher education has given them a different agenda. And I think, and the curriculum. So I think that goes back to what they're going back to each state. Each state is regulating something different. I know in Oklahoma, I know their Department of Education there in Oklahoma are regulating that discipline is back. I mean, you don't do things and then you get in trouble and then you have a consequence. Well, I know in Oregon, we don't have consequences. No matter what is on paper, no matter what's in the policies, that's not what happens. We have kids walking the halls, and that means they walk the halls because they go to class and they get kicked out and they don't go back, so on. We don't do anything with them. And that brings down the level of expectation for all the other kids. So it's just there's 100 different factors.
I would add on to that too, though, that if you ask that same question to administrators in Newberg, they'll say, "Oh yeah, of course we do stuff. We write them all up and we do all this stuff." No, they don't. And they may call the kid in and give him a candy bar, literally, and tell him, "Hey, Robbie, don't do that again." But I think with education, Rob, right now we are broken. I mean, the results speak for themselves. Parents need to demand a lot more. And I've always felt as a coach, though, my big responsibility, keeping it safe and everything for the kids. But, the parents, who's advocating for the parents? And that's what we're going to do at Stand Tall. I think we're going to advocate hard for the parents because it's the hardest job you'll ever do in your whole life is to be a parent. And then when you have your kids being attacked at school, I don't mean just physically. I mean mentally, they're being attacked and they're being told, things that are just so outside of a fifth grader's scope to be talking about some of the stuff they talk to them about, that we've got to protect our kids way better. But a lot of parents still are in the mode today that school was like it was then. Hey, moving on from this one, this is a tough subject, but we're just talking about education is such a big one. But when we're switching off to something a little light here, the other day we got to go to Goodyear Stadium in Goodyear, Arizona, and we got to see my Cincinnati Reds play the Oakland A's in a Cactus League game. Rob, what do you think?
Okay, well, no, I think they're the Sacramento Las Vegas A's. They're not Oakland A's anymore.
We talked to some A's fans. They're really frustrated. They said that the guy, the A's, is it's going to take 3 years to build the stadium. He sold off everything they had for Oakland, and he's kind of gutting the whole franchise. And a lot of people feel like he's there just to make a buck. What do you think?
Oh, sure. Oh, for sure. Exactly. Yep.
They don't think he's a stadium built in Vegas.
Well, the Vegas can be a palace. They're going to build it from scratch, and with all the technology and all the new, what zoo and what fors and how's it doing. They're going to build the stadium of the future. It's going to be incredible.
Who pays for
Well, the corporations,
People.
number one, the corporations in Las Vegas and all the casinos and all the companies and all the people, they'll buy those suites and they'll buy blocks of tickets. The regular guy doesn't buy tickets anymore, Dave. Those days are kind of gone in sports. It's all about companies and season ticket holders
Yeah.
buying, the whole place.
It's about entertainment, because the entertainment, and you got to market, and you got to market the players, and you got to market the product, the people who are buying the suites, and you market all of those when you have that going
No,
on.
I'm just
And
saying, like when a team's brand new, or like a team's brand new in Las Vegas, they won't have to even market. I mean, what all I have to do is put out a poster and say tickets here, and people will buy those tickets up for the next 10, 15 years. So that's a really economically made complete sense. Oakland's a tough town. It's a town that, man, it just fell off the map, didn't it,
And
Dave?
that's what the family we were chatting with right in front of us from Oakland. They were really sad. They were like 10 minutes, they said, right, Dave? That it was safe for them where they lived, but it wasn't safe to walk around 10 minutes from their house. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of, it just had been destroyed by certain things. But I loved the game. It was so fun to watch baseball in a small thing.
We were 1-1 starting eighth inning.
Ninth,
Okay.
Nope.
top of the
They
ninth.
scored a run in the eighth, top of the eighth. So we're down 1-2.
Uh,
It's a close game.
Yeah.
Then we start the top of the ninth. Well, we got a kid who pitched, comes in, big kid, lefty for the Reds. Yeah, they score about 5 on him.
Oh.
Then they
Ooh.
put another kid in. They score another 5 on him. So we end up losing 1-12.
Ah.
So, I mean,
Well, I'll tell you what, that is the nature of spring training games where you can have a tight game, and then the starters are off to the golf course, and the 17th round draft pick gets to come in and throw a couple innings and gets rocked. So it's
That
fun
was
though.
really true. We saw a group of them about sixth inning. They just took off and went off the field. I'm using my hands because it was like off, and you could see them all going with their bags off into
Yeah,
the far corner.
Terry
Yeah.
Francono, though, I forgot he was a manager of the Reds now. And I was telling Judy he's been around for a long time. And
yeah,
once they're getting rocked, he just kind of put them, he just let them go.
Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna let Dave keep talking. I'm gonna sign off for a little bit.
Well,
Stand tall,
Judy, I
Jalen.
appreciate your perspective on education. And one time I want to have you guys on, and let's both just talk about education and just some of the changes you've seen in the career and kind of how things have gone. I think it'd be a great show.
I'm up for it. I'm up for it. Let's go. Education. I can talk hours on education. So let's do
No,
it in a real positive way where, because again, we have 90% of our families have our kids in public school, and other choices are out there. There are more
sure,
choices. What do we do? What do
sure,
we do?
sure. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Dave, you want to follow, you want to close up here in about 10 minutes, me and
Yep.
you, or?
Yep.
Okay,
Let's go.
sounds good. Well,
Thanks for being here.
yeah, no, we've been talking about just from this week to last week. I mean, so much has gone on. I mean, the Ukraine situation and Putin and the ceasefire and like not even going into that. There's all kinds of changes in the government with court orders and people things being blocked for the president. So, what are you taking about from last week to this week? There's been just a ton of things going on in the government. Let's start with Doge. What are you thinking about Doge these days?
Well, I think the same thing. I mean, it's change is hard for anybody. Um, Doge isn't going to always, say necessarily, get it right, not hurt people's feelings. Um, I think the hardest part, though, we've been training people, Rob, for a long time, that this is okay how we operate with a $36 trillion a year deficit. It's not okay. We can't just keep writing checks that are really wallpaper. I had a guy that was my controller one time in a big company. And I said, well, can I get a check from you? He goes, you know what a check is, Dave? It's wallpaper until there's money in the bank to cover it. We've been writing wallpaper for a long time, Rob, and it's got to come to a stop. I'm looking at
Yeah.
two kids right now, our relatives right now, that are out here just having a blast playing. You know, they're on a big trampoline. It's so fun to watch them. Their future depends on us right now having something like Doge for the first
Mhm.
time curtail all the spending. You know, bottom
Yeah, and
line.
I'll tell you, but boy, man, people are just going out of their way to just criticize. And now they're burning up Teslas and bombing Tesla dealerships. I know here in Portland, someone was arrested for, shooting up a Tesla dealership the other day.
Well, I mean, that's the crisis we started years ago. That's coming into fruition. You know, we're 5 years almost from COVID right now.
Mhm.
And you talk about all the kids that were locked up for a year and a half in their houses, and the mental health we did to damage we did was massive. Now those 15-year-old kids are 20. Rob, that a 20-year-old's 25 now. If they're in college at that time, we really bagged it on that whole COVID thing, how we dealt with it, and now the mental health problems on it are through the roof. And anytime you do a course correction, Rob, it takes a long time. It
Mhm.
just and whether it's athletics or whether it's politics, but as a country, Rob, you look at how bad a job that was done the last 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration. It wasn't just a regular presidency. It was a failure in policy from the get to the go, and you're not going to fix this easily. So Doge is, I think Elon Musk is one of the few people in the world that could pull this off, and whoever was going to be in that hot seat is going to take a lot of flack. Fortunately for us, Elon Musk is Tesla. If he loses $1 billion on Tesla, it's like he can handle that. Where the normal billionaire would be like freaking out, he's not going to freak out. It is unfortunate that I think when people consider protesting, but they just don't protest. I'm all for a protest, but not illegally, not shooting things up, not hurting people. We saw it in Portland. We both lived there. Were you in
Mhm.
Portland when it hit?
No, I wasn't here yet. I was in St. Louis, which wasn't much better.
Dude, it was awful. I mean, every single night we got people in there attacking police officers and burning, police cars up and burning buildings up and Molotov cocktails. And nobody was arrested for, more than 2 hours, and they let them back on the street to do it again and again and again for a year and a half. And that's the problem. We have to have the United States has always been a different kind of country than around the world because we have laws and we enforce the laws. At that
Mhm.
period of time, we chose not to, and we paid the consequences. I think now you have a lot of people. It's like that teenager who never gets disciplined, and there's a lot of people out there who feel like they can just go shoot up a Tesla dealership, and somehow they can justify it.
And you talk about law and order. That brings us to Pam Bondi and her role in the Department of Justice and what's going on over there. Obviously, they came in saying, "Hey, there's not going to be a lot of political persecution. We're just going to move on." But some of the things they're finding are kind of pers- you know, are, they're finding things that need to be persecuted
Rob,
or
I think it's been going
prosecuted.
for
Prosecuted
decades
is the
and
word.
decades,
Excuse me.
decades and decades under Republican and Democratic leadership. This is the first time we've had a president that's put together a team that says, okay, we're gonna really fight it hard this time, and people aren't liking it. You got these longstanding senators and congressmen and people in D.C. and they don't like being told no. They don't like
Mhm.
not having their way, and it's. I think we have a lot of skeletons in the closet as a country right now, and both sides, and it's gonna it's like the Epstein files and all this crazy nut stuff.
Yeah.
I think once a lot of this stuff comes out, people are going to be shocked. I really believe that the Biden Harris administration way 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 dirty. Some of the stuff's going to come out, and other
Yeah,
people
and
will
it's
be.
disappointing, because again they sold us as this grandpa type of guy who's gonna calm America down, and it turned out to be a big sham,
Oh, for sure, and I
or it's gonna be. I should say it's gonna turn out to be a big sham is my prediction.
sure, absolutely for sure. So I think when you look at Doge, when you look at everything else going on, I mean, President Trump, you know, he's got Russia and Ukraine talking. I really feel like probably another 30 to 45 days, we'll have this thing into a ceasefire and this war will come to an end. And it's going to take somebody like Trump who's strong enough to deal with Putin and a Zelensky at the same time. Trump doesn't. I was talking to a guy up in Mesa yesterday, by a really nice guy named Perry from Vancouver, Canada. Great guy, police officer his whole career. And you know what he said, Rob? He kind of came up with about the tariffs, and I said, the tariffs are just a negotiating ploy because the United States has gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to tariffs for quite some time. Trump's just saying, let's balance the tariffs out. It's just a negotiating ploy. And he'll get the tariffs figured out where industries are being treated fair in Canada and the United States. And this guy agreed with me. It's just Trump's way of saying, hey, this isn't going to be a one-sided deal anymore where, like NATO, where the United States is paying 85% of the bill. These are just bad policies that have been in place. And if Canada is going to ship stuff to us, it has to be done in the right way. And, Trump's a master at negotiating stuff. And I think, the Israeli-Hamas war, brutal situation, how you get back to the Gaza Strip is going to take forever to rebuild. But he's going to get people to the table to talk. And, when it comes to, we're rolling through all these major issues in our country, like with the education thing, people in education are going to have to say, okay, we can do a lot better. If the National Education Association would just come into play and say, hey, we're going to do a lot better. But we still need a budget. We need to go. I mean, instead of just fighting it and just pitching a fit like a little kid, what are you going to do to be better and teach our kids? Just do that. When it comes to
that's a good point, Dave, because I feel like the NEA, they've been more defensive, defending their tactics instead of saying, you know what, yeah, we want to grow with the times, we want to evolve, and we want to, be part of the solution. But instead, they're just really they're defending themselves, always in a defensive posture.
Yeah, I think sometimes people right now need to sit back, and we all have to sit back, Rob. We do it on Stand Tall, you and I, and Paige and Rose, and we have to give and take. And sometimes you're right, sometimes I'm right. I'm usually righter than you're right, but just teasing
Two
there.
wrongs don't make a right, man, or two rights don't make a wrong, I guess, right?
So I think we just have give and take back and forth, and times we do disagree. We just go, all right, and then we just kind of show up the next time, have a cup of coffee, a flapjack, and bacon, and we talk again. I mean, I think we'll come back to that point in our country, but last thing I think rolling out today, it kind of came up several times. Lawlessness cannot happen. We hear about it all the time in South America and Mexico, and we hear about all this lawlessness that happens in different countries where you don't feel safe in the Middle East. And I think right now we have to step back in the United States of America. Everybody needs to respect every single law, every single police officer. We need to respect the laws that we have on the books. If we don't like the law, then we do it the right way. We go about changing that law through the political process until we make a law that's better than the one we have now. That's how our country works, and that's why we've been, when we say we're the greatest country in the world, we're the greatest because we do have laws to protect you and me and everybody else. And right now, a lot of people feel like those laws are not there and they can do whatever.
Hey, Dave, I know before we get out of here, I just like to always remind our fans, our listeners, really help us out when you hit that like and subscribe button. I wanted to also give our new podcast address that if you go on there, you can log in. There's all kinds of goodies. You can sign up for a newsletter, things like that. It's called podcast.standtallwithDaveBrown.com. Go there and you can certainly log in and become part of our movement, as we say. And if you want to just encourage other of your friends to listen to the show, we're on Apple Podcast and we're on Spotify. So just type in Stand Tall with Dave Brown and they can find us there. Dave, what do you want to say about that? Just anything to the fans and the listeners?
Yeah, I think, everywhere we go, every day, get more calls, and, I think this whole social media, type thing is revolutionizing the way we go about our day. And more people are online streaming, they're podcast streaming. The old days of just channel 268, NBC, ABC, CBS is over. Even sports, ESPN, things are changing so rapidly. It's just the way it is, and old people are going to have to adapt to the new way. And I'm excited about that. So I think it's going to be, fun for us as we grow. We got some great big meeting next Wednesday with our new sponsor, and I'm super excited what's going to come out of that. And as we grow, please, like Rob always says, Apple Play and all that kind of stuff, get on there, Spotify, and please give us those click likes. That's how we measure success in this world of social media. And I'm excited, Rob, that for the rest of this year, I think we're gonna have a blast because we're gonna be on the road a lot. We're gonna be interviewing a lot of people around the country. So the time of coming where it's just you and me or me and Paige is kind of dwindling down a little bit.
That's fine with us. We love good guests, man. We love to be
Yeah.
off camera and just listen to the show and support the show that way.
We've got a chance to meet a lot of people that are going to be on the show, and so Rob, every now and then we'll have to just do a special cast. One of my favorite things out throughout the week is to have flapjacks, bacon, and then just do a podcast with you one on one. This friendship has been amazing, and talking, and I wish you could have been there and watching those Cincinnati Reds play the other day. They were almost similar colors to your St. Louis Cardinals.
I tell you, I know they got the uniforms have all changed, but Dave, I'll tell you what, man. Before we go, appreciate just being able to visit with you on Saturdays and catch up. I think you and we don't always agree on everything. That's but we always have something to talk about. We always, we follow the news, we follow the headlines, and we have opinions on those. So we like to share those with our listeners. Again, want to give the address because it's podcast.standtall with Dave Brown, all one word.com. Go there. Log in, sign up. You'll see there's a great interview you did with Riley Gaines is on the front page of there when you were on Riley Gaines' podcast a while ago. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I want to encourage people. And to our fans in Ghana, we know you're there. We know you're listening. I know you probably like the shows with Paige a lot more than you like the shows with me and Dave, but we appreciate your support in Ghana.
Yeah, and I'd say next episode, we don't have time right now, but coming into Goodyear Stadium, saw a guy about my age. Him and his wife were walking in. He's wearing a number 14 white Cincinnati Reds jersey.
Pete Rose.
Pete
Pete
Rose.
Rose. I got it. Yeah.
So I stopped and talked to him, did an interview with him. It's going to come out on Instagram and TikTok here probably by tomorrow. And he had a great take on Pete Rose. He grew up in Cincinnati, huge Rose fan. And I asked him about the Hall of Fame, asked him about Pete Rose's career. Super interesting take. So that'll be coming up within 48 hours on there. And then somehow we'll start getting our reels built into our show.
That's interesting because my brother, believe it or not, he's my brother Dan. He's traveled all the way to Australia, so he had this extremely long flight, and he said he watched Pete Rose documentary that really didn't paint Pete in such a very flattering light. So I'm interested. It's interesting his name would come up because we just talked about that this morning through text. So Pete Rose, everybody. But listen, Dave, once you have a good week, you and Judy, I love seeing your travels and seeing your videos and seeing your pictures from the different venues you're going to. So I love that you guys are good travelers. And, they say the mark of a good couple is if you could travel well together. Did you and Judy travel well together?
Oh, gosh, perfect. Almost perfect. Traveling can be stressful, especially when you're flying to Palm Springs and you hit heavy turbulence sitting in the back row. But I'm getting beckoned for autographs right now by a bunch of crazy fans over here. So got to go to a parade, then Top Golf, and it's going to be a rough day.
Sounds good, man. You guys have a great day. Stand tall, and Dave, bring us out.
Okay, Stand Tall with Dave Brown. Go to standtallwithdavebrown.com. And we just appreciate everybody listening. Judy being on today. Rob, you're amazing. And we will.